All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here. My name is Dr. Laura Neville, and I have a super, super special guest today. I'm really excited to be speaking with one of my patients. Her name is Tiffany. Thank you so much for being here with me.
I'm glad to be here.
Yay. So everyone out there, just before we get started, little disclaimer here that nothing you hear today is medical advice. I want to make sure you really understand that because Tiffany has made an absolutely amazing journey. So if you hear from her and exactly what she did and how she made these transitions to improve her health, I want to make sure you understand that that's what worked for her doesn't necessarily mean that that's exactly what's going to be right for you. So you always want to be speaking to your personal physician and not using the internet as a way to, make your health changes. People can get into real trouble by doing that. So just to put that out there, this is an example of an amazing hormone transformation and something that you'll be absolutely inspired by. But again, this is Tiffany's story, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to correlate to what works for you. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, we can get to the awesome part here. And that is really, I wanted to bring you on so that you could explain to everyone about, where you started and where you are now, because I remember, when I first met you, you had quite a bit going on. And I think you were just at this point where you were like, stuff has to change. There has to be a way that we can turn this around, right? And sometimes I think that getting to that place is actually a really powerful place to be when you just feel horrible and everything's going wrong, because that can really motivate you to just make all of these changes. And you absolutely did that. You're in a perfect example of that. So why don't we start by just kind of telling everyone where you started? I think this was back like towards the end of maybe 2018, if I'm right.
It was. It was.
So lay the land of how you were feeling at that time and what you were dealing with.
So a couple of things, and I'm so glad to be here because if we can help other people, that's what this is all about.
Absolutely.
So I'll be 100% honest. At the end of 2018, I was 2 years post hysterectomy, but I still had one ovary, right? And I likened it to, it was barely hanging on. I don't think it was doing its whole job.
Yeah.
And I had typed in a bunch of symptoms into Google and it came out burnout. And I'm like, how is that a real thing? You kind of hear about it. And I have a successful business, a business that I love. But sure enough, my symptoms were just all over the board. Itchy skin, just crazy itchy skin. I had insomnia that would sometimes have me up all night and not falling asleep, or falling asleep and then being up in the middle of the night for the rest of the night. My hair was falling out. I was eating lettuce, literally lettuce, for 3 meals a day. Wow. And gaining weight. It just felt like, and I just felt tired and gross, and I was crying all the time. I mean, I was a disaster. And I think at that time, I was not even 45. So I thought, well, this must be menopause at first. And then I saw the burnout thing. And, really what it was for me was really, I think, the sleep making me feel crazy in my mind, going, if I'm going to live like this the rest of my life, I'm going to be dead probably before I'm 50. Like I kept telling my husband, I feel like I'm going to die. I don't know how else to explain it. It was like I was literally falling apart. And so I went to my regular doctor, who I love her, but she ran a bunch of tests and my hormones all came back normal.
Normal, yeah. I hear that all the time, yes.
And I was like, there's no way this is normal. And I had 2 choices at that point: be miserable or not, and seek other options. And I can't remember what I did to find you, but I did. And I found you and I thought, what do I have to lose? right?
Yeah.
I feel terrible. I have one doctor telling me I'm fine. Maybe a naturopath could show me another way. And the other thing I think that's important is to understand that I was not, I'm high risk for heart disease in my family. And my doctor had mentioned, well, you know, I could put you on hormones. And I had always heard bad things about heart disease and hormones after menopause. And so I wasn't really too keen on that. But so I reached out to you and I came in and I basically laid it all out there. And you told me I wasn't crazy. And we started doing different kinds of tests and realizing, oh, by the way, you're not crazy. Things are going on here that we can maybe help.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think so many women will identify with your story there because they're all, you know, I hear that every single day that test results come back, then it feels, you know, like shameful, like
Yes.
why is all of this going on? And but I'm normal, so it must all be in my head. You feel even more crazy. And
Right.
you know, that the second that sleep starts to be a problem and you're not sleeping, I mean, it is just a fast road, like you said, to burnout. And you have a really amazing high powered job. You're an entrepreneur and a business owner and you have employees, and you know, you travel around the world and you speak to high powered people. Like, you don't have the capacity to not be sleeping, and everything just kind
Correct.
of falls to the wayside one thing at a time after that, right? And you're left in this place like, how did I get here?
How did I get here?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, if this is the way it's going to be, then I'm going to give it all up. I'll sell everything. You know, I'll get a regular job as an accountant somewhere. And, you know, because if this is going to kill me, I would much rather be around for my husband and my kids and my future grandchildren than live like this, because this is nuts.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you have an awesome, supportive husband. You know, you have
I
like
do.
all of the things are there for you, yet you were still in this place of like, I want out. Like, I don't,
I
you know,
did.
I don't want to do this. And you felt like you had, you know, kind of between a rock and a hard place. Like, what do you do at that point? So
Right.
that is a lot of times where I meet people, you know, where they've tried everything else and they've tried all the conventional routes, and they're still at this place of like, something has to change. And so they're
Right.
totally willing to see
If
it.
I'm eating all the right things and I've got a doctor telling me I'm normal, then why is my hair falling out? Why can't I sleep? Why do I have all this crazy itchy skin? Why do my joints hurt like I'm 85 and not 45? I mean, you know, it was just, it felt like that domino effect, like, oh, now this, now this, now this.
Yeah,
And it's a process to get there. We don't get there overnight. But
sure.
man, it's a lonely place to be, because you do feel like, what's wrong with me, that I'm doing all the right things and
Yes.
nothing's working.
Yeah, yeah, and you really were. I mean, you're a go-getter. You were doing the right things, right? Like eating salad. You think, okay, that's gonna fix this weight gain problem that I
Right.
have all of a sudden, and why the heck is that not working? So, okay. So I remember that very vividly. We, I believe, started working on your sleep first and foremost, because I felt
Right.
like, okay, that's got, you know, that has to be there, or else we're not going to make any headway.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us now kind of the story of how, you know, you and I, and you mostly, turned this ship around? I think there was quite a few things involved, but you were super committed. You went above and beyond. You were kind of the perfect example of what I tell people is that this has to be, you know, a doctor-patient relationship is a two-way process. It can't just be me saying, hey, do these things. You had a very active role, and you were, you know, doing things above and beyond. You were fully committed. So, you know, you did everything, but I do want to just kind of paint the story for people of maybe a few of the things that you did to start making that transformation.
So, you know, the first thing we did deal with the sleep. And I think that one of the things we did was maybe an intermittent sort of melatonin or something like that, instead of one, I can't remember,
Yeah.
because I have changed that since then. But we we started with the sleep, and you gave me information on, make your room cooler, and let's not do, let's not do the electronics at night, and, make your room very dark. And I was doing a lot of those things, but not all of those things. And then we did, I call it the spit test, but we did do the hormone test, the spit test, which was super weird, but I was like, I don't care if I have to take this spit thing to work and spit in it and freeze it. We got to figure out if something's wrong.
Yeah.
You did that and some blood tests, which clearly showed that things were seriously out of whack. And what you did for me, which I think is the most important thing you did for me, was you gave me information about, and correct me if I'm wrong, what I call naturally occurring hormones, to right the ship on in terms of what I needed for my body based on all of these symptoms. That was not me being crazy, but were real symptoms of a result of a hormone imbalance. And so by giving me the information I needed, I'm a researcher, I'm an evidence person based on my job, I wanted information. And I was able to research on my own what the difference was between the hormones you were recommending and ones that maybe a more traditional physician might, not traditional physician, but a traditional gynecologist might give you, which is told those two things are different. And you can explain that better than me. But.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think, without boring everyone, there's huge differences, and really the key terms, if you're looking for this, is bioidentical hormones versus synthetic. And synthetic simply means that something was made in a lab. So technically bioidenticals are synthetic. However, when we use the term synthetic in this regard, it just means that there's differences. Some of the hormones that are made are not the same molecules that the human body produces naturally. And so it may not be surprising to say that those actually do have negative side effects and consequences. And that's usually, the part that more conventional doctors are using, because those were the ones that were used in the larger studies, right? And so the information is out there about the safety of bioidentical hormones. It's smaller amounts of data, and it's usually smaller studies. So they're usually overlooked by the conventional system, but they're super important because they are very, very clear, and that bioidenticals can lengthen the life of women and also the quality of life, and do a lot of protective benefits as far as health. So that is what we chose to do in your case. They're not appropriate for everyone, but in your case, it was definitely something we went with, and you benefited immensely from. So,
and for me, the big thing for me was the research and the information you gave, and the grace that you gave me to question you and to do my own research. And I remember even when I talked to the pharmacy, I'm like, I really need to talk to somebody. I mean, I really was concerned about this whole heart health thing. And so really, between the sleep, and there were a few other little things we did, some certain vitamins, and the hormones, we started shifting this dynamic of what was going on with my body and my feelings, and really started seeing an incremental difference within, I would want to say, like 3-4 months, that you could really start seeing. And really the changes for me were faster than that. But I remember having a meeting with you in late 2018, and then another one in spring, and the changes wwere already really remarkable.
I remember you came in and you said, I am 100% better 85% of the time. And I was like, yes, I love the way that you explained that. You had it, very numbers and something I could really understand. It was wonderful the way that you explained that.
Yeah, so that really helped me. And I was still struggling a little bit with the weight, and I knew some of that was probably some of the hormones, and some of that you just told me, your body needs to take time to heal, and you just need to take time. Like, this didn't all happen at once. And so hearing that message over and over and over again is helpful, as frustrating as it is, because you want change right now. Having that perspective was really helpful to me too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find, weight's the tricky one. It's usually top of the list of what women want to address. And unfortunately, it's one of the last things that will change. You've got to do all that foundational work first and make sure, again, like you're not burning yourself out, because the body under stress, no way it's going to let go of extra weight. It's going to hold on for dear life. And so, I think for you, that definitely did start to change. Absolutely. And you actually had quite a weight drop, and you started using intermittent fasting. That was very, very helpful in your case. Again,
for me, it really, remember, I'm trying to do all the right things, and I'm a researching person, so nothing seemed to be working, and all the things that worked when I was younger didn't work. And I saw a friend of mine on Facebook posting about these fasts, and he was doing a lot longer fasts. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he was really smart. He said, "Listen, I'm not gonna recommend anything to you, but here are some websites, here's some books, do your own research and see if it might be right for you." And what I was reading about intermittent fasting had a lot to do with inflammation, a lot about how it can help with inflammation, which I felt like was a big issue for me. And it really, two things for me: it made sense in terms of the science behind it. It also was better for my life. Trying to take food to work, or when I travel on an airplane or whatever, and trying to eat at all of these intervals, oh my gosh, that doesn't work for me. And intermittent fasting, like, oh, I don't have to deal with all this food. And so it's really been interesting to me about how much weight I've not lost. I've only lost about 10 pounds, which is a lot, but it's not a lot.
Yeah.
But the number of inches I've lost is phenomenal. And the amount of, again, more well-being and more healing. I've recently, I think I told you, went off the melatonin. Like, the melatonin was screwing up with my sleep, because that's now corrected itself.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy. So, so for me, again, the intermittent fasting lifestyle, I'm a year into it this week. And that has been the other big change, in addition to, again, still taking my hormones and some of the vitamins that I know, totally life-changing. And when you see pictures of me a year or two ago, it's like aging in reverse. It's really, that's sort of fun. Yeah,
absolutely. And everyone, there is an amazing blog that Tiffany wrote where she has side-by-side photos. So I'll share that here with this recording as well, just so that you can see and read her story, because it's very powerful. And I think it just, even beyond, this interview, she has a great style with her words, and really brings that to life, and just kind of shows you, the place she was in, that transformation she made, that it is absolutely possible, even when you're at the very bottom of the barrel and you feel like, there's nothing left to do and you've tried everything. I think you'll feel a lot better when you read her story and you see those side-by-side photos, because it is really, really inspirational. So
yeah, and you've got to try different things, or something might work. I think there's a few things that we did at the beginning that we don't do anymore. And like I said, just mention the melatonin. I was starting to read about, like, weird things were happening with me at night, and I'm like, well, maybe I should just not try the melatonin. And boy, holy cow, now I'm sleeping like I used to sleep, and I'm laughing, going, okay, more healing. So again, I'm a big believer in you and naturopathic medicine. And I'm a big believer in I don't like taking medicine. And so being able to do these in a more natural way, and do some other things, like the way you set up your bedroom, and the way your sleep patterns and all of that. Oh my gosh. If I could be as down in the dumps, and not even in the dumps, I mean, I was off a cliff, and be like I am today, what are we, 18, 20 months later, it can work for anybody. But you just got to keep trying, and just believe in yourself, because you don't have to live miserably. I don't believe you have to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just love hearing your story. And though I know it, it's just nice to hear it, again, and to be able to share it with everyone because like Tiffany said, you can be at the very bottom and there is hope and you can change that around. Sometimes it just takes fairly, I think it's an artistic approach, right? Because what works for one person absolutely doesn't work for the other. And even as you heard, Tiffany and I had to shift paths a little bit in what we were doing for her. And that's totally fine too, but that's the way you need to do it. And, there's not any one straight road to healing for anyone. So it is absolutely possible, but I think it's so nice when you have that relationship. So, she can come in and share with me what's been working for her, and we can like fine tune things and really find what's going to be absolutely optimal. And, I think naturopathic medicine is just unique because we do have the opportunity to spend more time one-on-one with people, which is so absolutely key to figuring out what's going to be best for them. You cannot do that in a 15-minute office visit. You just can't. It's not humanly possible.
It's not humanly possible. And so.
Yeah.
Good
okay.
stuff.
Well, I thank you so, so much for joining me today and for sharing your story, because you are going to be so inspiring to so many people that are listening to this. So thank you so much from my heart, but also from everyone out there that's listening today.
Yes. Good luck to everybody. And when it works for you, just pass it along, because so many of us at different stages in our life, we have to help each other understand that there are other options out there. And oh my gosh, when they start working, your life really does open up in a totally different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, everyone, I will share Tiffany's blog and her photos before and after. I think you'll really like reading that, and a couple links to my website and how you can reach me as well. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and
Thanks, everybody.
we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye.